Welcome to our storytelling haven, where love weaves through heartbreak and triumph under starlit skies. Imagine a beach aglow with roses, where Quinn, a visionary event planner, crafts a wedding straight from a fairy tale. But what happens when the groom is her long-lost love, and a shocking betrayal unravels their past? This is A Wedding Under the Stars, a tale of rekindled passion, hidden truths, and a fight to rebuild against all odds. Will Quinn and her first love defy the storms that threaten their future? Or will secrets tear them apart? Stick around to find out. You won't want to miss the twist that changes everything. If you love stories that tug at your heart, hit that subscribe button and share where you're listening from in the comments. Let's dive into this journey together, where every moment sparkles with hope and mystery. Ready for a love story that shines? Here we go. The ocean sighed against the shore, its waves curling like whispers of secrets yet to be told. The beach stretched wide under a sky bleeding gold and pink, a canvas for Quinn Everly's masterpiece. At 28, Quinn was no mere event planner. She was a sorceress of moments, the head of luminary events, whose touch turned dreams into reality. Today, her magic was on full display. A million white roses, their petals soft as promises, wove through towering arches that framed a seaside altar. Silk ribbons, pale as moonlight, danced in the breeze, threading through crystal chandeliers that caught the sunset's fire. The wedding venue was a fairy tale spun from her hands, a place where love could feel eternal, if only for one night. Quinn stood at the heart of it, her long black hair shimmering like obsidian, cascading over the delicate silk of her emerald gown. The dress clung to her curves, its fabric whispering with each step, a quiet elegance that matched her poise. Her dark eyes, sharp and discerning, scanned the setup with the precision of a conductor before a symphony. "Lila, the trellis is off by an inch. Tilt it left," she called, her voice calm but laced with authority. "Marcus, those champagne flutes need another polish. They're catching smudges in this light." Her team moved swiftly, a well-rehearsed orchestra under her command. This was no ordinary wedding. The Caldwell-Langley nuptials were a high society affair, a union of wealth and power, and Quinn's reputation hung on every detail. She stepped toward the altar, adjusting a rose that dared to droop, her fingers brushing its velvet petals. The scent enveloped her, sweet and fleeting, stirring a pang deep within. Quinn crafted love stories for others, but her own heart carried a scar, a love lost years ago. She pushed the thought aside, focusing on the task. The string quartet was tuning their instruments, their notes weaving into the ocean's rhythm. Waiters glided with trays of sparkling Prosecco, and the first guests, draped in couture and diamonds, began to arrive, their laughter floating like bubbles. Quinn's vision was coming to life, a ceremony where vows would echo under a starlit sky, sealing a bond as radiant as the scene before her. She allowed herself a small smile. If love could be captured, this was how it looked. Yet beneath her polished exterior, a quiet longing pulsed. Quinn had always dreamed of a love as vivid as the weddings she designed. A hand to hold through life's storms, a heart that saw her not just as the woman who made magic happen, but as the magic itself. She shook off the ache, chiding herself. Today wasn't about her. It was about the couple, whoever they were. Her team had handled the contract, and she'd been too buried in logistics to check the names. "Caldwell-Langley," she murmured, the words unfamiliar but heavy with expectation. She imagined them, a golden-haired bride, a dashing groom, their eyes locked in devotion. Her job was to make their moment flawless, to give them a memory to carry forever. "Lila, the candles, light them now. The sunset's fading," Quinn instructed, her voice cutting through the hum of activity. Lila nodded, striking a match, and soon, hundreds of candles flickered to life, their glow softening the edges of the world. The effect was breathtaking, like stars had fallen to earth. Quinn stepped back, surveying her work. The altar stood framed by roses, its wooden base draped in silk that shimmered like liquid light. Beyond it, the ocean stretched endlessly, its surface catching the last rays of the day. She felt a swell of pride, but also a twinge of something else. Anticipation, perhaps, or the weight of a day that felt bigger than she could name. She moved to the guestbook table, ensuring the pen was perfectly aligned, when a shadow fell across the sand. Her breath caught, unbidden, as if her body knew before her mind. She looked up, and the world tilted. There, across the venue, stood a man in a tailored black suit, his broad shoulders cutting a striking silhouette against the fading light. His dark hair was swept back, his jaw sharp, but it was his eyes, blue as the heart of a flame, that stopped her cold. Mason Caldwell. Her Mason. The man who'd once held her heart, who'd whispered promises of forever under college oaks, who'd broken her with words that still echoed. "We can't be together, Quinn. I have to do this for my family." Her pulse thundered, drowning out the quartet's melody. 5 years had passed, but time hadn't dulled the ache. Mason's gaze found hers, intense and unyielding. And for a moment, the beach, the roses, the guests, they all vanished. There was only him, and the memory of a love that had burned too bright to last. Quinn's hands trembled, and she turned away, busying herself with a ribbon that didn't need fixing. He couldn't be here. Not today. Not as the groom. But the truth clawed at her, undeniable. The Caldwell-Langley wedding. His wedding. She hadn't known, hadn't prepared, and now the past was crashing into her present like a wave she couldn't outrun. Quinn forced a breath, steadying herself. She was a professional, and this was her stage. Whatever pain Mason's presence stirred, she would bury it. The ceremony was hours away, and she had a job to do. But as she adjusted a candle, her fingers brushing its warm wax, a question burned hotter than the flame. How could she craft a perfect love story for the man who'd shattered hers? The ocean whispered on, indifferent, as the first stars began to pierce the sky, promising a night where secrets would unravel and hearts would break anew. The stars were emerging, pinpricks of light piercing the velvet dusk. But Quinn Everly felt as if the night had swallowed her whole. Mason Caldwell's gaze, sharp and unrelenting, had pinned her to the sand, unraveling 5 years of carefully buried pain. Her heart thundered, a traitor betraying her composure as she fussed with a ribbon that was already perfect. The beach wedding she'd crafted, roses, silk, and candlelight, hummed with anticipation. But for Quinn, it was now a stage for a different drama. Mason was here, the groom of the Caldwell-Langley wedding, and the man who'd once promised her forever, only to shatter her world. She turned away, her emerald silk gown whispering against her skin, and forced her focus back to the task. She was Quinn Everly, head of Luminary Events, and she would not let the past derail her. The string quartet's melody wove through the air, a haunting counterpoint to the ocean's restless pulse. Guests milled about, their champagne glasses glinting, oblivious to the storm brewing in Quinn's chest. She moved toward the guestbook table, her steps deliberate, her dark eyes scanning for any imperfection to distract her. A pen was slightly askew. She straightened it, her fingers trembling. Memories clawed at her. Mason's laughter in a moonlit dorm, his hand warm in hers, their dreams of a shared future. And then, his voice, cold and final. "We can't be together, Quinn. I have to save my family." He'd chosen Catherine Langley, the heiress whose father's investment could rescue his family's crumbling tech empire. Quinn had been left with nothing but a broken heart and a resolve to rebuild herself. She glanced across the venue, unable to stop herself. Mason stood near the altar, speaking to a guest, his broad shoulders tense, his dark hair catching the candlelight. He looked older, sharper. The boy she'd loved, now a man carved by time and ambition. A billionaire CEO, the papers called him. His company, Caldwell Tech, a titan in the industry. Yet his eyes, piercing blue eyes, still held the intensity that once made her feel like the only person in the world. He turned, as if sensing her stare, and their gazes locked again. Quinn's breath hitched. She spun away, her heart a wild drum, and busied herself with a floral arch, her fingers brushing the soft petals of a rose as if they could anchor her. "Quinn, the bride's team is asking about the cake placement," Lila called, snapping her back to reality. Quinn nodded, grateful for the distraction. "Tell them it's by the dance floor, as requested. I'll check it now." She moved swiftly, her heels sinking slightly into the sand, her gown trailing like a shadow. The cake, a 5-tiered marvel of ivory fondant and edible gold, stood under a canopy of silk. She adjusted a sugar flower, her hands steadier now, but her mind raced. How had she not known Mason was the groom? Her team had handled the contract, and she'd been too swamped to dig into details. "Caldwell Langley," she whispered, the name now ablaid. Catherine Langley, the blonde heiress who'd claimed Mason's future, was about to claim this perfect night too. As she stepped back to inspect the cake, a memory surfaced, unbidden. Their last night together, 5 years ago, under a campus oak. Mason had held her close, his voice breaking. "My family's company is collapsing, Quinn. Victor Langley's investment is our only shot, but it comes with a price." She'd begged him to fight, to find another way, but he'd shaken his head. "I can't let my parents lose everything. I have to marry Catherine." The words had cut deeper than any knife, leaving scars that throbbed now, raw and real. Quinn clenched her fists, willing the pain away. She was no longer that heartbroken girl. She was a woman who built empires of beauty, who turned dreams into reality. Mason's presence wouldn't break her. She returned to the altar, ensuring the candles burned evenly, their flames dancing in the breeze. The guests were seating themselves, their murmurs rising as the ceremony loomed. Quinn's team moved like shadows, finalizing every detail under her watchful eye. She was about to signal the quartet to begin the prelude when a figure approached from the side. Her stomach dropped. Mason, alone. His suit impeccable, but his expression unguarded, almost raw. "Quinn," he said, his voice low, carrying a weight that made her freeze. She stepped back, her pulse racing, her professional mask slipping. "Mason," she replied, her tone cool, though her heart screamed. "I'm working. If you need something, my team can assist." She turned to leave, but his hand caught her wrist, gentle but firm. The touch sent a jolt through her, memories of his warmth flooding back. "Please," he said, his eyes searching hers. "I didn't know you'd be here. I need to—" "Quinn!" Lila's voice cut through, urgent. "The bride's arriving early. We need you at the entrance." Quinn pulled her wrist free, her skin tingling where he'd touched her. "Duty calls," she said, her voice steady, but her insides churning. She walked away, her gown swaying, refusing to look back. Mason's presence was a ghost she couldn't face. Not yet. But as she reached the entrance, where the bride's silhouette gleamed in the distance, a chill ran through her. This wedding was no longer just a job. It was a collision of past and present, and Quinn sensed the stars above were watching, waiting for the moment when everything would change. The ocean's murmur faded as Quinn Everly hurried toward the entrance, her emerald silk gown trailing like a whisper of the night she was fighting to control. The stars above gleamed, indifferent to the chaos brewing within her. Moments ago, Mason Caldwell's touch had scorched her wrist, his voice, raw, with unspoken regret, threatening to unravel the armor she'd built over 5 years. Now, Lila's urgent call about the bride's early arrival pulled her back to duty, but her heart pounded with a dread she couldn't name. The wedding, her masterpiece of roses and candlelight, was no longer just a love stage. It was a battleground where her past and present collided. Quinn straightened her shoulders, her dark eyes narrowing with resolve. She was a professional, and no ghost, not even Mason's, would break her. At the entrance, a sleek white limousine gleamed under the torchlight, its door opening to reveal Catherine Langley, the bride. Her golden hair cascaded in perfect waves, framing a face of porcelain beauty. But her green eyes glinted with something sharp, predatory. Her gown, a cascade of lace and diamonds, shimmered like a beacon of wealth, yet it couldn't mask the coldness radiating from her. Quinn's stomach twisted. This was the woman Mason had chosen over her, the heiress whose father's money had saved his family's empire. She forced a smile, stepping forward. "Miss Langley, welcome. Everything is ready. If you need anything..." Catherine cut her off, her voice a blade wrapped in silk. "You're Quinn, aren't you? Mason's little college fling." The words dripped with disdain, slicing through the warm night air. Guests nearby turned, their murmurs hushed, sensing a spectacle. Quinn's smile faltered, but she held her ground, her voice steady. "I'm Quinn Everly, head of Luminary Events. My job is to ensure your day is perfect." Inside, her heart roared, but she would not let this woman see her bleed. Catherine stepped closer, her heels clicking on the wooden path, her perfume sharp and expensive. "Don't play coy," she hissed, low enough for only Quinn to hear. "I know who you are, the girl who thought she could keep him. Look at you now, fussing with flowers while I marry the man you'll never have." Her lips curled into a cruel smile, her eyes raking over Quinn's gown as if it were rags. "You were never good enough for him, and you never will be." Quinn's fists clenched, her nails biting into her palms. But she kept her tone even, professional. "My focus is your wedding, Miss Langley. If there's an issue, I'll address it." She turned to signal Lila, but Catherine's hand shot out, grabbing her arm, her grip surprisingly strong. "Oh, there's an issue," Catherine said, her voice a venomous whisper. "You, existing here in my moment. You think you can just stand there, looking like some tragic heroine and not pay for it?" Quinn pulled free, her dark eyes flashing. But before she could respond, Catherine leaned in, her words a dagger. "I made sure you lost him, Quinn. 5 years ago, I convinced my father to threaten to pull his investment from Mason's family unless he left you. He chose me, or rather, my money. And now he's mine forever." The revelation struck like lightning, splintering Quinn's world. Catherine had orchestrated their breakup, wielding her father's wealth like a weapon to tear Mason away. The pain of that night, his cold farewell, her shattered dreams, now had a face, and it was smirking at her. Quinn's breath caught, her mind reeling, but years of commanding chaos kept her steady. "You manipulated him," she said, her voice low, trembling with fury. "You used your father's power to destroy us." Catherine laughed, a sharp, mirthless sound. "And it worked! Mason's mine, and this," she gestured to the roses, the candles, the guests, "is my triumph." Her eyes gleamed with malice, but before she could twist the knife deeper, a shadow loomed behind her. Mason. His face was a storm, his blue eyes blazing as he stepped forward, his voice low and dangerous. "Catherine, what did you just say?" Catherine froze, her confidence crumbling like sand. "Mason, I was just..." she stammered, her voice faltering under his glare. Quinn stood rooted, her heart pounding as Mason's gaze shifted to her, softening with a pain that mirrored her own. "Quinn, I didn't know," he said, his voice breaking. She told me her father's investment was unconditional, that she saved my family out of love. But it was a lie to force me to leave you." He turned back to Catherine, his jaw tight. "You trapped me into this engagement." The air crackled with tension, guests whispering, their eyes wide. Catherine's face flushed, her hands trembling. "Mason, you can't believe her over me," she snapped. But her voice betrayed her panic. Quinn felt the weight of every stare, the roses and candles now a backdrop to a drama she hadn't scripted. Mason's eyes locked on hers, filled with regret and something deeper, something that made her heart ache. "I never stopped loving you, Quinn," he said, the words a quiet thunder that drowned out the ocean. Catherine's gasp was sharp, her composure shattering. "Mason, we're about to get married," she cried. But he shook his head, his voice firm. "Not anymore." The words hung heavy, a vow breaking before it could be made. Quinn's pulse raced, her world tilting as Mason extended his hand to her, a silent plea. The stars above seemed to hold their breath, waiting for her choice, as the night promised a reckoning yet to come. The night held its breath as Mason Caldwell's hand stretched toward Quinn Everly, a lifeline cast across 5 years of heartbreak. His words, "Not anymore," still echoed, shattering the illusion of the Caldwell-Langley wedding like glass. Catherine Langley's cry of protest faded into the ocean's restless murmur, drowned by the gasps of guests and the flicker of candles that lined the rose-strewn altar. Quinn stood frozen, her emerald silk gown catching the starlight, her dark eyes locked on Mason's. His gaze, raw with regret and love, pierced through the walls she'd built since he'd left her, whispering promises of a future they'd lost. The beach, her meticulously crafted stage, was now a crucible, and every eye, guests, staff, Catherine, watched, waiting for her choice. Quinn's heart thundered, torn between the pain of his betrayal and the pull of a love that had never truly died. Catherine's revelation, that she'd manipulated Mason's family with her father's wealth, had rewritten their past. But could it rewrite their future? Her fingers twitched, hovering over his outstretched hand. "Mason," she whispered, her voice barely audible over the waves, "you broke me." His face tightened, but he didn't waver. "I know," he said, his voice low, fervent. "And I'll spend my life making it right if you'll let me." The sincerity in his blue eyes, the same eyes that had once mapped her soul under college oaks, cracked her resolve. She took his hand, her skin igniting at the contact, and the world shifted. Gasps rippled through the crowd, and Catherine's voice rose, shrill and desperate. "Mason, you can't do this!" But he didn't turn, his grip on Quinn firm as he led her away from the altar, past the roses and candles, toward the shoreline where the sand gleamed like silver. The guests' whispers faded, replaced by the ocean's song, and Quinn felt as if she were stepping out of a dream, or into one. Her heels sank into the cool sand, her gown trailing behind, and with each step, the weight of the night seemed to lift, leaving only the man beside her. They stopped where the waves kissed the shore, the stars above a glittering canopy. Mason faced her, his suit slightly rumpled, his expression unguarded. "Quinn," he said, his voice thick with emotion, "I never forgot you. Every day, I carried the weight of what I did. I built Caldwell Tech, made billions, but it was hollow without you." His thumb brushed her knuckles, a gesture so familiar it ached. Quinn's throat tightened, tears prickling her eyes. "You chose her," she said, the words sharp despite her softening heart. "You left me to save your family and I had to rebuild alone." Mason's jaw clenched, pain etching his features. "I thought I had no choice. My parents were drowning in debt and the company was collapsing. Catherine's father promised salvation, but I didn't know it was a trap. I thought I was protecting you from my failure." He stepped closer, his breath warm against her cheek. But I was wrong. You were my strength, Quinn, and I've loved you every second since." The confession hung between them, heavy with truth, and Quinn felt the scars of their past begin to soften, not heal, but shift. She looked out at the ocean, its waves glinting under the moonlight, and saw their reflection, two souls tethered by a love that had endured betrayal. "I tried to forget you," she admitted, her voice trembling. "I built luminary events, crafted other people's love stories, but you were always there, in every rose, every starlit night." A tear slipped down her cheek, and Mason caught it with his thumb, his touch gentle, reverent. "You're still the one, Mason," she whispered, the words a surrender to the heart she could no longer deny. He drew her close, and their lips met in a kiss that was both fire and solace, a collision of longing and redemption. The world vanished. The guests, the altar, Catherine's fury, leaving only the taste of salt and starlight, the press of his hands against her back. It was a kiss that erased years, that promised forever in a way words never could. When they parted, breathless, Mason rested his forehead against hers. "I'm never letting you go again," he vowed. And Quinn believed him, her heart soaring like the waves. But the night wasn't done with them. As they stood, entwined, a shadow moved at the edge of the venue. Catherine, her golden hair wild, her gown a beacon of wrath, watched from afar, her eyes burning with a fury that promised retribution. Quinn didn't see her, but she felt a chill, a premonition that their rekindled love would come at a cost. Mason took her hand, leading her further along the shore, their footsteps blending into the sand. "Let's leave this behind," he said, his voice steady. "Just you and me, like it should have been." They walked under the stars, the ocean their witness, sharing quiet memories, late-night talks, stolen kisses, dreams they'd once dared to dream. Each word rebuilt a bridge between them, fragile but strong. Yet as they laughed over a college prank, a distant shout broke the spell. "Mason!" a voice called, sharp and authoritative. Quinn turned, her heart sinking. A man in a suit, Victor Langley, Catherine's father, strode toward them, his face a mask of cold anger. The stars seemed to dim, and Quinn knew the consequences of their choice were already closing in. A storm gathering on the horizon. The stars hung low, their light trembling on the ocean's edge. But the night's magic frayed as Victor Langley's voice cut through the air. "Mason!" he barked, his silhouette stark against the flickering torches of the abandoned wedding. Quinn Everly's hand tightened in Mason Caldwell's, her emerald silk gown catching the breeze like a flag of defiance. Moments ago, their kiss had sealed a love reborn, a vow to reclaim what Catherine Langley's lies had stolen. Now, Victor's cold fury loomed, a harbinger of consequences for the broken engagement. Quinn's heart raced, but she stood firm, her dark eyes meeting Mason's, silently promising to face whatever came next together. Victor stopped a few paces away, his silver hair glinting, his suit as sharp as his tone. "You've humiliated my daughter and our family," he said, his voice low, venomous. "Walking away from Catherine in front of everyone? Do you think there won't be a price?" Mason's jaw tightened, but his voice was steady. "The price was paid 5 years ago, Victor, when you used your money to force me from Quinn. I know the truth now." Victor's eyes flicked to Quinn, dismissive, then back to Mason. "You're a fool, Caldwell. By morning, my $10 million investment in your company is gone. Let's see how your precious love fares when Caldwell Tech crumbles." The threat landed like a stone, rippling through the quiet night. Quinn felt Mason's grip falter, but he squared his shoulders. "Do what you must," he said. "I'm done with your games." Victor's lips curled into a mirthless smile. "You'll regret this." He turned and strode back to the venue, where Catherine's silhouette lingered, her golden hair a faint glow of rage. Quinn shivered, the ocean's chill seeping into her bones. "Mason," she whispered. "What does this mean?" He faced her, his blue eyes resolute. "It means we fight. Together." They walked back to his car, leaving the roses and candles behind, the stars above their only witnesses. By dawn, the news broke like a tidal wave. Victor Langley had withdrawn his entire stake from Caldwell Tech, and the company's stock plummeted 30% before the market opened. Headlines screamed of betrayal and bankruptcy, painting Mason as a reckless romantic who'd traded empire for love. He barricaded himself in his office, a sleek fortress of glass and steel, poring over financials with his team. Quinn, still in the jeans and sweater she'd thrown on after the beach, brought him coffee, her presence a quiet anchor. "You need to eat," she said, setting a sandwich beside his laptop. He managed a tired smile. "You're already saving me." The days blurred into nights, Mason battling to secure new investors while fending off creditors. The pressure was relentless, his face etched with exhaustion, but Quinn refused to let him break. She drew on her event planning expertise, suggesting a bold rebranding campaign to restore public trust. "Show the world Caldwell Tech is more than money," she urged, sketching ideas on a whiteboard. "Highlight your vision, your innovation." Mason nodded, inspired, and tasked his team with developing a new AI platform, a game-changer to lure fresh capital. Quinn organized a launch event, transforming a warehouse into a futuristic showcase, her knack for spectacle turning heads. One midnight, as Mason stared at bleak projections, Quinn knelt beside him, her hand on his shoulder. "You've rebuilt before," she said, her voice fierce with belief. "You were a kid with a dream when you started this company, and you're stronger now. I'm with you, Mason." Her words sparked a fire in his eyes, and he pulled him into a quiet, desperate kiss, a reminder of why they fought. She stayed through his marathon calls to Tokyo, her presence a shield against despair. When he doubted, she brainstormed. When he faltered, she stood firm, her love a steady pulse through the chaos. The launch event was a gamble, but Quinn made it unforgettable. Drones projected Caldwell Tech's logo across the night sky, and her design, sleek stage, immersive screens, pulsing lights, drew gasps from global investors. Mason's speech, raw and visionary, unveiled the AI platform, its potential electrifying the room. By morning, 3 new investors had pledged $3 million, not enough to erase the debt, but a lifeline to keep fighting. The press hailed it a triumph, and Caldwell Tech's stock began to climb. Quinn and Mason celebrated with takeout in his office, their laughter soft but real, a spark of hope amidst the grind. Yet the battle wasn't won. Victor Langley's influence lingered, his allies whispering poison to remaining investors, tightening the screws. Mason's team uncovered a rival's attempt to poach their patents, a move that reeked of Langley's hand. One evening, as Quinn and Mason walked through the city park, the weight of it pressed down. "He won't stop," Mason said, his voice heavy. "Victor wants to break me." Quinn stopped, her dark hair catching the streetlights, her eyes fierce. "Then we don't break. We build something he can't touch." She pulled out her phone, drafting a pitch for a community-focused tech initiative to win public support. Her mind, as sharp as her heart, was steadfast. As they stood under the city's glow, a text buzzed on Mason's phone. His face paled. "It's from Victor," he said. "He wants to meet tomorrow. Alone." Quinn's stomach dropped, sensing a trap, but Mason's jaw set with determination. "Whatever he's planning, we'll face it," he said, taking her hand. The night stretched on, the city humming with secrets, and Quinn knew their love, so fiercely reclaimed, would soon face its greatest test. The city's pulse faded as dawn crept over the horizon. But for Quinn, Everly, and Mason Caldwell, the night's shadows lingered. Victor Langley's text, "Meet me tomorrow, alone," hung like a guillotine, its cryptic menace threatening the fragile hope they'd built. Quinn's hand rested in Mason's, her dark eyes searching his in the park's dim glow. "It's a trap," she said, her voice steady despite the fear coiling within. Mason's jaw tightened, his blue eyes resolute. "Then we'll face it together," he replied, squeezing her hand. They returned to his apartment, the city's hum a distant echo, and planned their next move, their love a shield against the storm brewing. The battle for Caldwell Tech and their future was far from over, but Quinn felt a quiet certainty. Whatever Victor planned, they were stronger than his schemes. The meeting was set for noon at Victor's penthouse office, a fortress of glass overlooking the city. Mason insisted Quinn come, defying Victor's demand for solitude. "You're my partner," he said, his voice firm. "We do this as one." Quinn nodded, her heart swelling and dressed in a sleek, black blazer, her long black hair pulled into a determined knot. The office was cold, its marble floors reflecting Victor's icy demeanor. He sat behind a mahogany desk, Catherine at his side, her golden hair immaculate but her green eyes simmering with spite. "You've made a grave mistake, Caldwell," Victor began, his tone clipped. "My allies are ready to crush your company, but I'm generous. Return to Catherine and I'll restore my investment." Mason's laugh was sharp, unyielding. "You think I'd trade love for your money again? I know your game, Victor. You've been funding a rival to steal our patents." Quinn's pulse quickened. She'd seen the evidence in Mason's files, a web of sabotage traced to Victor's cronies. She stepped forward, her voice clear. "We've documented everything. Your rival's moves, your whispers to our investors. Try to destroy us, and it all goes public." Victor's smile faltered, and Catherine's face paled. "You're bluffing," she spat, but Quinn's gaze didn't waver. "Test us," she said, sliding a folder across the desk. Printouts of emails, financial trails, proof of their treachery. The room crackled with tension, Victor's fingers drumming the desk. "You're clever," he said finally, his voice grudging. "But cleverness won't save you from bankruptcy." Mason leaned forward, his presence commanding. "We don't need your money. Our AI platform has new investors, and our community initiative launches next week. Caldwell Tech will outlast you." Quinn's idea, a tech program for underserved schools, had won public adoration, bolstering the company's image. Victor's eyes narrowed, but he leaned back, defeated. "Get out," he muttered, and Catherine's glare followed them to the door, her dreams of reclaiming Mason shattered. The victory was hard-won, but Caldwell Tech's recovery accelerated. The community initiative drew global praise, and new investments poured in, pushing the stock to record highs. Mason worked tirelessly, but Quinn was his anchor, her event-planning genius turning each milestone into a spectacle. Their nights were spent dreaming of a future unshadowed by the Langleys, their love deepening with every shared triumph. One evening, as they walked the same beach where their story began, Mason stopped, his eyes gleaming under the stars. "Quinn," he said, kneeling, a diamond ring sparkling in his hand. "You're my home, my strength. Will you marry me?" Tears streamed down her face as she whispered, "Yes." And their kiss, fierce and tender, sealed a promise eternal. Quinn designed their wedding herself, returning to the beach where roses once framed another's vows. This time, it was intimate. White roses in simple clusters, lanterns casting a golden glow, silk drapes swaying like whispers of their journey. Her gown, a flowing silk masterpiece, hugged her curves, her black hair luminous under moonlight. As she walked the aisle, barefoot in the sand, Mason's gaze held her, his suit tailored to perfection, his love a beacon. Their vows were raw, forged in trials, "Quinn," he said, voice thick, "I'll love you through every storm, every sunrise." Quinn's eyes glistened. "Mason, you're my heart. We'll build our dreams always." Their kiss sparked cheers from loved ones, the ocean applauding their union. The reception danced under the stars, laughter and music weaving through the night. Quinn and Mason swayed to a slow song, her head on his chest, his heartbeat her anchor. "We made it," she whispered, and he kissed her forehead, his voice soft. "Because of you." Years later, their family grew. A daughter with Quinn's dark hair, a son with Mason's blue eyes, and Caldwell Tech became a global empire. Its community work a legacy of their love. They often returned to the beach, hand in hand, where stars had witnessed their trials and triumphs. As the sun set on their story, painting the sky in gold, Quinn and Mason stood together, their love a constellation that would never fade. The ocean sang, eternal, and the stars above shone brighter, as if to say, this was forever. What a journey under the stars. We hope Quinn and Mason's story of love, betrayal, and triumph touched your heart as much as it did ours. What did you think? Did their rekindled romance make you believe in second chances? Or did Catherine's schemes keep you on edge? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let us know where you're listening from. We'd love to hear from you. A huge thank you for joining us on this starry adventure. Your support lights up our storytelling world. Subscribe to never miss a tale, and we'll meet you again soon for another story that'll steal your heart. Until then, keep dreaming under the stars. See you next time.